The Raiders and Jags face off tonight in the Hall of Fame game. Both teams have new head coaches this season. The Josh McDaniels era begins in Las Vegas, while Doug Peterson is in Jacksonville after not coaching in 2021. Peterson is trying to turn around a 3-14 Jags team, which was worse than that record indicates from last season. They drafted Trayvon Walker first overall and has spent nearly $200 million in guaranteed money on free agents. The Raiders, of course, got their quarterback Derek Carr's old receiver from his college days at Fresno State, who, happens to be also the best consensus, or at least consensus best, wideout in the game, Davante Adams from the Packers. Mike T., what are your expectations for the Raiders this season?
I think they're going to be markedly improved. The problem is they're in the AFC West. But when you think about offensively what they should be able to do, Derek Carr is a very good quarterback, maybe not elite. And when you have somebody like Davante Adams, he is going to create production for others because he will be double-teamed quite a bit. So Darren Waller should do well, even though he'll get the lion's share of the coverage. But maybe it's a running back, maybe it's Hunter Renfrow that has a really good year because of all the coverage that Davante Adams is going to dictate. This will be a very hard-to-defend offense. And Josh McDaniels is not scared to run the ball with Josh Jacobs. So I really like what they'd be able to do. And if they were in any other divisions besides the AFC West, we would be talking about a deep playoff run.
David Jacoby, Trevor Lawrence, who, let's not forget, was ahead of Deshaun Watson's pace at the same school, right? Did more earlier on and was supposed to be this generational talent, but was outplayed by Joe Burrow in the championship game. Nevertheless, #1 overall pick. That was the consensus anyway. It happened. And now he is a Super Bowl winning coach. So what do you expect to see in year 2?
Well, it can't get too much worse than year 1, right? I mean, my expectations for him are so high, but when you were the #1 pick, you joined a team that had the worst record, and they showed it last year. And I think the Urban Meyer thing was a distraction. It was a disaster. What he will provide this team, and if you're a Jaguars fan, you're not going to the playoffs, probably not going to be 500, but you're going to provide hope. He's going to be that #1 pick. He's going to perform. What we saw in flashes last year, we'll see more consistently. Evan Ingram is there. Christian Kirk is there. He's got Marvin Jones, Zay Jones, Tim Jones, all the Joneses. He's keeping up with all of the Joneses there. But what I will say is keep expectations low if you're a Jaguars fan, but he'll provide hope. He'll show you why he was the #1 pick, and he was a prospect so highly touted.
Know what my expectations are low for, guys? The Hall of Fame game. They say that you don't play boxing. You don't really play football either. I know this is not the most original take. People have said this this time of year, everyone says this, right? Many people do. Football does not lend itself to this kind of environment. It doesn't lend itself to exhibition, like baseball and basketball do, because you don't play it the same way. It's a hurt game. It's a hurt business. Mike T., all I'm hoping for when the Giants play in the preseason is that no one gets hurt. That's it. So that's my take on all preseason stuff. I was glad they took a preseason game out. If they wanted the extra regular season game, okay. They could do away with the preseason. I'd be fine, Mike T.
Yeah, no, that's reasonable. Actually, from a front office perspective, you're trying to evaluate some of the younger players. And as you said, you're hoping no one gets hurt. And by the way, you just gave the most compelling argument about what's wrong with the Pro Bowl as well for the same reason. So in terms of tonight, first of all, it's great to be talking about a football game between two really intriguing teams because I think Trevor Lawrence gets a lot better under Doug Peterson, and we just talked about the Raiders, none of which we'll see tonight, however, but at least we are talking about football for at least a few hours with everything else that's going on in our sport. But one thing that is helpful is there could be a young player or two that emerges, maybe a Zaire White, for example, for the Raiders, somebody that you want to see pass protect, catch the ball out of the backfield. So there are some storylines. They're not noteworthy, but they will help with the evaluation.
Yeah, that's why the Pro Bowl is no good, right? Because it's the closer you can come to your actual sport. Like, you can play baseball. You can play baseball full force, full steam. You can't, if I find out the Giants are going full steam in preseason, I'm terrified. I want to see every team play but the Giants in the preseason.
Exactly.
Right? Am I crazy?
No, not at all. And the Pro Bowl is the best example of that. I don't watch the Pro Bowl.
No, it's awful.
I don't even watch it.
Yeah.
And I'll watch the hockey All-Star game, even though it's a contact
Let's
sport.
not get hysterical, but yes, I understand. Mike T., as a GM, what are the main things you're looking for in the preseason opening game?
I want to make sure that the young players know what they're doing, that they're well-conditioned, they're not turning the ball over, they're not making mental mistakes. And when we get towards the later into the summer and we're making sort of like these roster decisions, games like tonight will actually matter. And again, I think it'll be interesting from Doug Peterson. Here's a veteran coach with a young team. Does the Trayvon Walkers of the world, first pick overall, does he actually play? They have a lot of other guys that have interesting storylines, like Travis Etienne, first-round pick, didn't play last year because he was hurt. Christian Kirk, a big-time signing. They need reps with Trevor Lawrence. I just don't think we'll see it tonight. So this will be really the evaluation of a lot of the younger players.
I love that. Like, hey, if we don't get you your receiver from college, which is the new thing everyone does, we'll get you your running back.
Yeah.
Get you back. Good enough? It's okay. All right, now it's time for Max Value. Get money. Gambling expert Joe Fortenbaugh is here. Joe, what's your best play for the Hall of Fame game tonight?
First off, I love the way the producers have set this show up. A bunch of guys talking about how they don't want to watch preseason football, followed by the guy who's going to come in to supercharge that preseason game by gambling on it. Now, keep in mind...
By the way, Joe, no, you said it right.
Action.
You said it right. Here is the reason to watch preseason football. We're giving it to you right now. Once you have a stake in it, yes, all of a sudden it's very interesting. You're absolutely right.
My man. Welcome to the world of Las Vegas. So here's what we're going to do tonight. First and foremost, this isn't a large wager. We don't have a sizable edge, but we do want some action because football is back. So I'll take the 2.5 points with the Jacksonville Jaguars in this game. The total in this game is just 30.5. That might be the lowest total in the history of Hall of Fame games. Our database only goes back 15 years. 30.5. So that 2.5 point spread is a lot bigger than it would be if the total was, say, 51 or 52 points. This comes down to Doug Peterson for me. In Philadelphia, he was 8-8 against the spread in the preseason, but look at that first year on the job when he really wanted to make an impact. 4-0 straight up, 4-0 against the spread, plus 43-point differential. If this game is close, and I expect it to be, late in the game, don't be surprised if Peterson makes one or two decisions to try to win this thing to get the momentum moving forward in the locker room.
Yeah, it's not like he's going to do something to hurt the Giants' chances here, which they did, by the way. The Eagles did. I'm still not over it. All right, the end of the season. Joe, looking ahead for the team in Vegas, what's your best futures pick?
As an Eagles fan, I was so happy to watch that happen to Big Blue. I was so happy. But that's for another day, Kellerman.
Of course you were, because you're a bad person, because you're an Eagles fan. There's an Eagles fan for you. Go ahead, Joe. A pox on your
Exactly.
house.
We got to root for other people's failures.
Yes.
We can't root for our own successes.
That's right.
I would say when it comes to the Raiders, a futures play I would make would be Derek Carr to lead the NFL in passing. It was 14-1. It's now down to 10-1. Carr was top 5 in the NFL in passing last season, and that was with Darren Waller as tight end missing 6 games. And that was with no Devontae Adams. Well, now the best receiver in the game has joined the roster. Waller's healthy. You're going to be in a situation where you've got a great schedule conducive to passing. Of their 17 games, 13 are going to be played either indoors or in warm weather climates like Tennessee and Jacksonville. One of those 4 games that isn't, it's in Kansas City, but it's in October, so the weather shouldn't be too bad. It's a competitive division. I expect the Raiders to be in a lot of competitive games, which means throwing for all 4 quarters. Carr at 10-1, that implies about a 9% chance. I like those odds.
That's a great point about Derek Carr. He's actually facing a lot of pressure in a sneaky kind of way because we've all decided about him already. He's good. Good leader, good player, checks every box, even if it's not at the highest level. Oh, my God, like Justin Herbert or someone, but he checks every box at a good level, and we all think he's good. But he's got everything he needs on offense, and he's in a stacked division. The pressure is on. Thank you, Joe. This just